president's talk about this being a Democratic hoax doesn't seem to hold a lot of water tonight, even with his own supporters.
Well, what seems to be, look, that Truth Social post that he did this morning was extremely confusing, and it's very clear what, he is trying to suggest, backfill this essentially, that anybody who raises questions about this now that it was some kind of a setup by Democrats or by Obama, even though Jeffrey Epstein, or Joe Biden, even though Jeffrey Epstein died in jail when Donald Trump was president last time. I mean, there's a reason that you are seeing people like Mike Flynn say this just doesn't make sense. It simply doesn't. You are correct that, a decade ago, President Trump was more than happy to raise questions of guilt by association for the Clintons. This was something that his advisors talked about, that his allies talked about. Has he talked about Jeffrey Epstein as much in the interregnum period between his two presidencies as some of his top advisors have? No, but he has populated his administration with people who really made names talking about this. And to now say it doesn't matter, you are seeing an emboldened Congress to some extent calling him out for saying these things.
I wonder what you make of that, because one thing he has made clear is he wants people to stop talking about this. He wants this to stop being a story. And you're seeing the right-wing influencers that he's calling, or like some of his most ardent members in Congress, most ardent supporters, say they still want to hear more. I wonder what you make of that when typically they fall in line with what he says.
I think there's a couple of things at play, Caitlin. I mean, I think one is, he is a lame duck. I mean, part of why he has tried to hold on to his party so tightly since he took office again was to get things done. He saw what happened in term one when members of his own party were rising against him on various fronts, and so he wanted to pass, the one big beautiful bill, and there were other pieces, there were other things he wanted to accomplish, and generally he has scared members of his party into not speaking out if they were upset with it, or people supported what he was doing. Now you're seeing things like Thom Tillis, who you just played a quote from North Carolina. He's not running again, and so he clearly feels emboldened to speak out. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been speaking out more and more. You may see others. I think time will tell, but it is definitely a notable shift since he came back.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Trump trying to move off the story, I want you to listen to what he said in the Oval Office, where he himself was basically trying to say it's time to move on from this.
I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements we've had, instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. The scandal you should be talking about is the auto pen, the things that they should be talking about. The big, beautiful bill is one of the greatest pieces of legislation ever in this country. All these things that happened that wouldn't have happened if you had good leadership, and that's what you should be talking about.
Maggie, as you know, the president is typically pretty good at changing the narrative when he wants to, or putting something else out there. Does your reporting show, are you surprised that he's struggling to change it in a way that he typically has not?
I think this one, Caitlin, a couple of things. Number one, Jeffrey Epstein has been a mainstream story for a long time. There were a lot of people who covered issues related to Jeffrey Epstein and the crimes that he committed. He was in prison. His death was very well covered when President Trump was in office the first time. So number one, it's not just a story that takes place, on the internet. This takes place across the board. Number two, you are seeing his allies, advisors, supporters who have gone out there and talked about this and who I think believed that they had his support on this, getting questioned by their own base. And so this is sort of a story of a question of who do you trust? And that is very clear in what he's saying. It's hard to tell people. I mean, again, I said this earlier about his Truth Social post. It strains credibility to suggest that this was, I call this a hoax and therefore it's a hoax. People are clearly feeling as if for their own reasons, whether it is because of the people who listen to their podcasts or because of their voters in the midterms, that they need to make clear that they don't agree with them.
Lastly, we also learned tonight that James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey, who is a prosecutor in Manhattan, successfully had worked on the cases of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. She's been fired abruptly. Our sense is that she wasn't given a specific reason. Do you believe that that's related to what's happening right now? What's your sense of that?
It's hard to ignore the fact that she was involved in some of the cases involving Jeffrey Epstein. Time will tell whether this was the reason why, whether folks suggest that she had something to do with that. As you say, she apparently was not given a specific reason, and Article 2 was cited as, under the powers of Article 2 and the executive branch. She was dismissed. The president has obviously no love for James Comey, but this would, potentially feed into a line of what he is trying to allege is some broader effort that's separate from him.
Yeah. Maggie Haberman, excellent reporting as always. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Up next, my other inside sources, Politico's White House Bureau Chief Dasha Burns and CNN's senior correspondent Donie O'Sullivan. And it's great to have you both here to just get your perspective on this. Donie, I kind of just would like for you to walk us through this, because I think one question that some people have is, given Trump himself has peddled conspiracy theories before, what you make of the surprise he has at how attached to this the people who support him the most are, and are not willing to let it go just because he says, stop talking about this.
Yeah, Caitlin, it's absolutely shocking for them. It really is shocking. And I was trying to think of this today in terms of, in MAGA media, there are, many conspiracy theories and objects of fascination come and go. But every day, pretty much, for years, you'll always hear people on those channels, on those platforms, talk about two things. One is the false claim that the 2020 election was stolen. They are still talking and obsessing about that. And secondly is the Epstein files and everything to do with that. So Trump coming out and saying, just forget about this, I think is so much of a shock that it would be equivalent of him coming out and admitting that the 2020 election wasn't stolen and that conspiracy theory was a hoax. Look, Trump is obviously a master manipulator of media, of social media. And either he is sort of playing dumb here and hoping that this Epstein stuff goes away, or maybe he just genuinely doesn't fully grasp how much he has stoked the conspiracy theory space online for years. I remember a couple of weeks before the 2020 election, he did an NBC News town hall. He refused to disavow QAnon then. And since then, Media Matters, the liberal watchdog group, said that he has posted more than 1,000 times on Truth Social amplifying QAnon accounts. And so every time people see those sort of accounts, they view that, rightly or wrongly, but they view that as him endorsing this conspiracy theory or Epstein files, all that sort of stuff. So that is why this is such a big deal for them.
Yeah, and Dasha, White House officials seem stunned that this is still a massive story and seems to be only growing. I wonder what you're hearing from sources tonight.
This is new for them. This is really new for Trump. He is not used to not being able to control the news cycle, to change the narrative, to turn the tables. It's usually folks from the opposition that are attacking him. So he either welcomes it and wears it as a badge of honor, or somehow flips it around on them. And this is his base. Like, he's not used to being able to fully direct their attentions, their energies, and their passions. So they're really on a back foot here. And I think this is why they're having such a hard time navigating this, because they've gotten attacks from the other side before. They have never seen an uprising like this. And for the people in Trump's camp that are elected officials or influencers, they are stuck between the president and his base. That is a tough place to be, because those are the two things that they are most afraid of. And I don't know which one wins out in the end.
Yeah, and Donie, when it comes to what the MAGA base wants here, what exactly is it that they want uncovered? Is it just names that Jeffrey Epstein had in terms of contacts, or what is it exactly that they're searching for here and hoping that Pam Bondi releases from the Justice Department?
Yeah, it ranges, but frankly, they're expecting what they were told to expect from people in Trump's orbit for years, right? They want accountability. For many of them, they were sort of led to believe that what is in those files, or what's imagined to be the files, is stuff that would incriminate Democrats. That was a big part of the fascination here. I think one other thing to mention here is that Trump is trying to have it both ways in terms of, obviously, on a daily basis, he attacks the press and says, that they're failing and whatnot. But he clearly, obviously, cares a lot about what the press says. But talking about that the press is fanning the flames of this, I mean, frankly, they don't need the press to do this, because even we saw yesterday when Speaker Johnson came out speaking about this, he spoke to Benny Johnson, another MAGA media influencer. So, I mean, that's the other thing I find interesting here is Trump's understanding of the media. I'm not sure he fully grasps just how powerful that MAGA media-verse is, that they essentially can usurp the mainstream media sometimes and force things into national conversation.